big threat. They're the defending Paralympic and World Champions, and will be looking to defend their Canada Cup title this weekend.
Who are the key players, Nathan, we should be looking for early on?
Well, obviously the main man is Riley Batt. He's known as the world's best wheelchair rugby player for a reason. He's got incredible speed, great strength, and really just knows how to play the game. He leads his team, he helps set up picks, and really will be the main focus defensively for Japan. On the other side of the court, Daisuke Ikezaki is Japan's #1 ball handler. He also is a fantastic player. He's very, very agile in his chair, turns very quickly, and knows how to escape double teams. So it should be a really interesting game watching them go back and forth at one another and seeing how their low point players are able to create openings for them.
Now, will they be playing a balanced lineup, a couple of attackers, a couple of defenders, or how will they go?
With both teams, it looks like what we're seeing is a high-low. So that's when we have 2 higher point players and 2 lower point players. Australia is starting out with Riley Batt, who's a 3-5, Jaden Warren, who's a young class 3, Jason Lees, who's a 1, and Ryan Scott, their captain, who's a 0.5. Japan is going with a 3-3-1-1 with Daisuke Ikezaki, Yukinubu Ike, Tomo Imai, and Wakayama. So both these teams are going to run a high-low, so expect a lot of long passes if they get an opening, and more 2-man play.
So Australia with the first goal, Riley Batt, and we'll hear him a lot. Full court pressure by the Australians.
Right. Scott trying to hold up. Daisuke doesn't quite get there. Riley and Ike in a race.
Couple of big hits by the Australians. Batt reaches in, gets lucky there not to be called for a penalty. Give us a rundown on some of the basic penalties we should be looking for here today.
All right, so obviously illegal use of hands is one penalty we might see a lot. There's no body-to-body contact permitted between wheelchair rugby players. Chair-to-chair contact is legal as long as it does not occur behind the axle, in which case that's called a spin. We may see that. Right now, Australia is dropping back into the key. You may see a 4 in the key penalty called if 4 defenders enter that black key area. Additionally, on offense, you are only allowed 10 seconds in the key. If a player is in the key for more than 10 seconds, it's a turnover.
Here comes
Batt
Riley
breaking free.
now. Nice.
And a nice little hit there by Jaden Warren. Making his presence felt early.
Didn't really need it to score, but got to lay a few licks out there to
these two teams play each other quite a bit, and there's definitely a bit of a rivalry between them. So expect a really physical game early on.
No, Ike, a big man out there.
Yeah. Japan's going to do that a lot. They'll send Ike down low to collect the inbound because Australia doesn't have anybody tall enough to deny that. And then he'll look for Daisuke up high. Riley
Batt caught reaching in there, and when you reach in, Nathan, your hands are not on the wheels. Therefore, you're not moving anywhere. And Ikezaki.
All right, here's Lees with the inbound. All right. Warren with the long pass. It's the first long ball of the game. Nice, easy goal for Riley Batt.
Just about running into the service dog on the end line. That'll be a first in a wheelchair rugby game, I'm sure. Ike now looking for Ikezaki.
All right, both Japanese high pointers are trapped low, but Ike gets out.
It's a 2-on-1.
Warren comes over to defend, but can't get there.
Warren can't make the hit. And Ikezaki wasting a little time there, letting his defense get set up.
We have a
So Lee's
all right, Lee's called inbounder. He's looking at Warren. Batt's coming back down low.
Riley Batt is everywhere.
Looking for the pick, looking for the pick.
12 seconds to get the ball over center. Lee's hit hard by Ike. And we've got a timeout.
So Australia is using their first floor timeout of the game. Both teams get 4 timeouts that they can call on the floor over the course of the game.
And we see the replay here. Looked like Lees was in a bit of trouble, and his teammate thought he might lose the ball. And we saw in that Great Britain game earlier, Great Britain USA, all it takes is one mistake and you're in trouble. And Great Britain losing 50-48 to the USA.
Yep. And Japan has made a substitution. So Shinichi Shimakawa comes on for Yukinobu Ike. Seiyu Norimatsu has come on for Wakayama. And number 15, Kishi, has come on for Imai.
So wholesale changes for Team Japan here.
So Japan sticking with a high-low, but kind of changing the pieces in that alignment.
Shimakawa,
Norimatsu gives them a little bit more speed over a Class 1.
Over to Norimatsu for the easy goal, and Australia here with a slight, or Japan I should say, with the slight edge in the score. Oh, wait a minute, now we've got different scoring in different locations, so it
Warren
is Australia.
Shimakawa with a little duel there.
5-4. Warren was hit hard, Nathan, but still managed a nice hook pass over to the streaking Riley Bat. Ikazaki now spins away. Bat tracks him down. Nice pick from
Shimakawa there.
Shimakawa, yes. And that won't show up on the stat sheet as an assist, but Shimakawa responsible for that goal.
Shimakawa is a real veteran presence of this Japanese team. He's been to several Paralympics. He spent a couple seasons playing in the U.S. Very experienced player, very fast.
Here comes Bat now, close to a time violation. He is
Shimakawa
just
tries to take
gonna
him
make
at
it
the
over.
half-court line and just doesn't get there in time.
Well, that is a bit of a problem when you're full court pressing. It does open up quite a bit of space.
Shimakawa on the wing, Bat coming on.
Shimakawa with a nice pass to Ikazaki. And the team's happy right now just to trade
Bat gets through
baskets.
the middle.
Warren to Riley Bat.
Shimakawa doing a great job defending Warren on the outside there.
The one pick and Bat is through. Now
That's going to
he's
kill a little bit of
wasting
time now
a
before
little bit of
scoring.
time here, Nathan. Why is that?
It's about managing the clock. There's no way any defender's going to stop him at that moment, and they have the lead. So they're just going to take a couple seconds off the clock, which could really help them in late game situations or later in the quarter when teams are looking to get their last goal.
Here comes Shimakawa now, the veteran. He does it himself. And Lees to inbound to Warren. Nice pass over the top to a wide open Riley Bat. Ikazaki now. He's got some space and he'll waste a little bit of time as well, allow his defense to get set up before he crosses the goal line.
Kizaki's a very patient player. He always looks as if he's in complete control of the situation, never rushes the attack, and has really, over the past 5 or 6 years, developed into the main man for this Japanese squad. He helped lead them to a bronze medal at the 2010 World Championships, and will be hoping for more success in Rio. Oh.
Well, that'll be a penalty, I believe.
Yeah. So that was a spin. So So the hit came from behind and was deemed dangerous by the referees.
We'll take a look at the replay here as Jason Lees grabs the ball and he's hit from behind. And Ikizaki, I think, didn't really mean to do that, but tried to save him.
Okay. And both teams making changes now as Ike subs in for Shimakawa and Chris Bond comes in for Jaden Warren, with Nazim Erdem, the longtime veteran, subbing in for Jason Lees. So Australia going with their 3-5-3-5.5.5. Wheelchair rugby does employ a classification system. So when I'm saying things like a 3-5 or a 1 or a 2-5, that refers to the athlete's functional level. So all wheelchair rugby players are assessed by a panel of classifiers made up of trained professionals who assess how much hand function they may have, how much function they have in their arms, and how much movement they have in their core and hips.
And it's quite a complicated process, classification. And this year, for the first time ever, there will be no classification in Rio, Nathan. Going in, what you are is what you're going to be. So no surprises this time out.
And that's why tournaments like this are so important, because it offers teams one final chance to get their players classified before the Paralympics.
Ike back into the game, passes over to Ikizaki.
Nice patience by Ikizaki there, just to wait for Naramatsu to set that pick and clear that path around Riley Batt. Little give and go between Bond and Erdem there.
So Bond, a veteran of this Australian team. He's going to just make it over center.
And that is a 10-second no dribble call. So wheelchair rugby players must bounce or pass the ball every 10 seconds.
So in his enthusiasm to get over center, he neglected in 12 seconds, he neglected to dribble the ball in 10. That's a big turnover as Ike now.
Which is surprising coming from a player as experienced as Chris Bond.
And Nora Matsu with the goal, left wide open. And a ball picked off by Ike. And that'll be a timeout called by, I believe it's Australia calling the timeout. If it was me, I'd be calling a timeout if I was Australia after those turnovers.
Well, Japan's had a really good swing around here. They were down by 2 and now they're up by 1. Just some bad mistakes by Australia that are easily fixable, that an experienced team like this will likely be addressing. Coach Brad Duberly has been with the squad for a very long time, led them to gold medals in London and at the World Championships in 2014, and a silver medal in Beijing.
So we'll take a moment during this timeout to thank some of our sponsors. Obviously, Via Sport, as you're watching this spectacular webcast with cameras all over the Richmond Oval. And speaking of Richmond Oval, they're one of the sponsors as well. Richmond Sport hosting the City of Richmond, Vesco, and the Cayley's Modern Irish Pub, where hopefully they serve some Postmark beer, which is another sponsor.
So Japan's dropping into the key here, trying to slow the game down a little bit.
Bat inside to Bond, and
and Ikezaki's open for the long ball from Ike. The Ike to Ike connection links up for another score. Those two have formed a very lethal partnership for Japan ever since the 2014 World Championships, where Japan finished 4th, losing the bronze medal game to the United States.
So we saw Ryan Scott calling to, he was pinned deep in the Japanese defensive zone, but he called to inbound the ball. So Japan had some good defense going there. And here comes Bond.
Yeah, and a big thing in wheelchair rugby is the importance of transition. It's getting set up before the play starts and using that time in between whistles to create that setup that your team wants and desires.
So Erdem and Scott with a couple of nice picks to allow Bond to score.
Saki being patient with the ball here.
Here comes Ikazaki, long pass to Ike, and he misses, and that's a big turnover.
So early on, we've seen a couple errant passes from both teams. These are plays that they know how to make, and that hopefully we'll see fixed later on in this match.
So Bond over the top to Riley Bat. Ike is probably one of the tallest wheelchair or rugby players in the tournament. Unable to pick that one off. And here comes Ikazaki now.
Noramatsu's wide open.
He's got Noramatsu wide open, and he'll make no mistake. So the team is trading goals.
And both teams have had a lot of success with the long ball early on in this game. It's something that look for them to both continue. Give and go for Australia.
This time it's Riley Bat with the pick and roll, but Bond unable to get past Ike, and it's a jump ball.
So with a held ball, we follow the possession arrow, so it will be Japan's ball. This means that Australia will have the ball coming in to the second quarter unless there is another held ball. Japan taking their time here, setting up a play.
Australia back in that zone defense. Ikazaki looking for an opening.
Noramatsu tries to open up the corner. Australia denies.
Noramatsu's got the corner this time. And that's a 4 in the key call. Nathan, give us a rundown on that.
So defensively, teams are only allowed to have 3 defenders inside that key area. If a 4th defender enters the key, it is a penalty.
And that was
in this
a
case, the
penalty
referee
goal.
judged that a goal would have been scored, so they awarded the penalty goal. And Australia responds right back with another long ball.
And as quick as that, Riley Bat picks up another goal for Team Australia, and we're tied here 14-all in the late going. What you see on your screen, folks, isn't quite up to date. It's 14-all. Ikazaki now to Ike.
Ike to Ike once again.
He's wide open. And there's Ikazaki trying to track down Riley Bat and deny the pass.
Australia's all bunched up on one side, but Bond's coming in.
Nice picking by Scott and Erdem again to allow Riley Bat a bit of space, and you don't want to give him space. Ikazaki now looking for an opening, looking for a pick from Noramatsu. Doesn't get it. Riley Bat tips the ball out of bounds. It'll be Japan ball. Well, that was an easy goal right there. Nice play by Bat. Ike now looking for Ikazaki.
Ike is really able to use his height to an advantage on those inbound plays.
Nice give and go on the pick from Noramatsu. Bond inbound to Bat. He's got nowhere to go. Double team deep in his own end. But Bond is there to bail him out. Nice pick by Erdem.
Australia is going to slow it down here with 25 seconds on the clock. They're trying to go for a last goal of the quarter.
We've got a 3-second differential between the score clock and the possession clock. Here comes Bat now. He's hit hard by Ike, but hangs on.
So Japan has enough time to score here with 8 seconds on the clock.
Ikazaki spins, covered by Bond, but he gets away from Bond. Long pass into Ike, misses, and we'll go into the first quarter break tied at 16. So Nathan, not much decided there. What were the differences between the two teams strategy-wise?
I think they both played with fairly similar styles, especially considering the types of lineups they like to employ. The long ball was a very useful weapon for both teams. I think they'll both want to work on cleaning up their passing a little bit, making sure those passes are to the right areas and not going too far. These are world-class athletes, and those are skills that they know how to complete. I was really impressed with Norimatsu for Japan. He was not a member of their 2012 Paralympic team, but he's been coming on strong for them in recent competitions and made a big impact coming off the bench.
And how about for Team Australia? We saw Erdem, who I believe was an All-Star in 2014, if I'm not mistaken, coming off the bench.
Nazim Erdem is known as one of the best .5 players in the world. As much as to the average observer, he may not seem that dominant. He really does a great job of creating openings for his high point players and leading on the court vocally.
So we're taking a look at the Japanese team in their timeout, and we see two different types of chair designs. There's the defensive chair that we're looking at right now, and as we swing across, we see the attack chairs. What's the difference between them, Nathan?
So the offensive chairs are a little bit more rounded. They have wings on the side, so they're meant to kind of brush off of contact and be able to score a lot easier, while defensive chairs are created with the thought of stopping those offensive chairs. So those bars on the front are used to hook and hold offensive players in position and keep them in place. You'll generally see higher classified players use offensive chairs and lower classified players use defensive chairs. There'll be the occasional moment where you'll see a Class 2 in a defensive chair, but that'll be usually for strategic purposes with their role on their team.
And it's Australia ball to start the second period. There's Riley Batt along with Bond looking for an opening. Japan with some very good defense, although Bond did get in behind. Batt didn't see him.
Attack the
So now the two Japanese players have had Riley Batt kind of bottled up. They had to let him go. What's the rule on backpicking?
So you have to allow the player to re-enter the court, so they cannot hold him out of bounds or prevent him from re-entering the field of play.
So Imai back in the game, scoring for Japan.
Japan's gone back to their starting lineup, while Australia is sticking with that 3-5, 3-5, 0.5. Long pass.
Nice play by Riley Batt to track that down.
Chase it down.
Ikazaki dangerously close to another penalty, but it would have been a penalty goal. So you see both teams claiming possession on that tip ball, but it's a turnover against Team Japan. And here comes Riley Batt. Blows right by Ikazaki. Ikazaki now covered by Bond and Batt.
Bond looking for that held ball.
So when you reach in once again, you're not wheeling anywhere, so this time Ike and Ikazaki combining.
So you see that good spacing for the Japanese high pointers there, both taking one side of the court, giving themselves plenty of space to work with.
There's a pass over the top to Bond, and he'll score to give Australia a 2-point lead. And
Ike goes and sets up down low once again.
Two evenly matched teams, 2 points is critical. It's a long bomb over top from Ike to Ikazaki, and he just gets it before crossing the goal line. And Japan again with that pressure defense, but Ryan Scott calling to inbound the ball, so he has to be released.
So with a low pointer inbounding, Japan will be really looking to deny this pass. Scott doesn't have as good a range as some other players.
So Bond to Bat on the long breakaway pass. Ike and Ikezaki seem like they were a little bit tired on that last play.
Ike races back, just gets around him. Good pressure by Bond here.
Here comes Ike now. 2-on-1 against Bat. And Bat conserves a bit of energy there. Sometimes a player will try for a hit just to send a message, but Riley Bat, the veteran.
And as great as the big hits are, you're going to see a lot of these players are working more for position than they are for the hit. Good chair position is key to good defensive play. So you'll look for them to get their big wheel in front of the front end.
And here comes Erdem now on the long pass from Riley Bat. Australia with a full court pressure.
It's a huge advantage for teams when they have low point players that they can trust in those high pressure situations there to catch those long passes with the defender coming.
And that's a perfect example right there. Wakayama.
And another long pass from Bat, or Bond to Bat.
So you do run the risk, Nathan, when you try to deny a pass that they will pass over top for the easy goal.
Not applying good pressure on Ike there.
Ikezaki.
Ikezaki now
looking for a pick. Instead, the long pass to Ike. Bat almost tracked him down, but Japan closes to within one.
Bond looking for Bat. Bat using the outside, cutting back in.
Bat
gets around Ike.
Scott, nice move to
a nice easy pass to
get away from Wakayama. So the passing seems to have firmed up a little bit, Nathan, in this quarter.
Yeah, we're seeing a very fast-paced game between these two sides, putting plenty of points up on the board and really using that long ball to their advantage.
So this time Bond will inbound for Australia. Bat was double teamed, but he gets away.
And none of the high pointers have moved over to Chris Bond.
An opening. Finds
Bond. Starting to recover. Gets there to slow him down.
Bond now finds
and a nice pass there from Bond to Bat.
Bat using the pick from Scott to get open.
And electing to go with a quick inbound.
And that is a costly turnover potentially for Japan, as I believe that was Norimatsu, or no, that was Imai, I should say. Unable to track that down. And Australia, a little bit of momentum here as Bond will roll in to increase the lead to 3 goals.
And some nice transition here from Australia on Daisuke Ikezaki. Ryan Scott and Chris Bond have him trapped up high.
Ike in a bit of trouble.
Ike
He's double teamed.
Riley Bat.
The long bomb to
pass.
Imai. Oh no, sorry, that's Wakayama. And Japan a little bit frazzled. They call the timeout. Nathan, what are they gonna say?
I think it'll be just on being patient. They've had a couple passes where they had time on the clock where they could have used to try and set up a pick or get around it, or even just to use their floor timeouts. In those situations where there's a lot of pressure on, you know, you're getting late in the count, those floor timeouts are there to prevent turnovers. And you don't get to keep them at the end of the game.
Exactly. And what will Australia be talking about over in their huddle?
I think for Australia, it'll be very positive. They seem to be clicking very well. All 4 players seem very in sync with one another.
As we see that Bond to Bat combination, we'll also thank BC Wheelchair Sports, the Canadian Wheelchair Sports Association, International Wheelchair Rugby Federation for their sponsorship of this event. And here comes Riley Bat. Japan back on zone defense. Bat sees an opening. Created mainly by Bond, I believe.
And Japan have put Norimatsu and Kishi back on. That was a combination that was working very well for them in the first quarter. As Ike shoots around Chris Bond.
Well, caught Bond backing up. Bond did an admirable job of backing up, but really couldn't keep up with the streaking Japanese player. And
in that situation, it might have been a better decision for him to turn around and attack him moving forward rather than backwards. That way he can get better position on Ikezaki.
Good cross-training, I suppose, as Erdem set to inbound now to Bond. Ball tipped away, but Australia will retain possession. A mere second off the possession clock.
And Chris Bond calls inbounder after getting trapped by two Japanese players.
And there's a
Kishi there going over to trap Chris Bond in the corner. But Australia is able to make it work as Bat takes in for the score.
So Erdem with a nice little handoff. He was stopped, but now he'll try to stop Ike. But
on the other end of the court, Ryan Scott was working to try and push Kishi out of the way to free up Chris Bond. Wasn't able to get there in time, and Ike scores easily. Chris Bond is once again forced to inbound as Japan throws 3 defenders at Riley Bat.
So Bat double team, gets it to Bond. He's going one-on-one with Ike. Erdem looking to set a pick. Back to Bat. And Bat gets around Ikezaki for the goal. So Norimatsu looking to inbound for Japan now. Ike is double teamed, but he's so tall. Up to Ikezaki. Norimatsu is open.
Norimatsu.
There's the long pass, and Norimatsu makes no mistake. And you're right about Norimatsu. He's having a very good game. Full court pressure
Japan once again trying to triple team Riley Bat on the inbound. Denying the pass over top.
So there's one of your player timeouts, Nathan, right there. That's a good time to call it. So give us a rundown on the rules, I guess, in terms of how long do you get to inbound the ball? And
you get 10 seconds to inbound the ball. No player is permitted within 1 meter of the inbounder. And the inbounder may use the length of the court to get the ball in. So they may move down to pass it into their teammate.
The Bond this time gets it in to Scott, I believe.
And Australia has now
gets
used 2 of their four timeouts as Japan gives Daisuke a rest, putting Shimakawa in his place.
Ike now turning away from Erdem and gets away from Bat, but Bat tracks him down. He's got him trapped. There's Shimakawa.
Australia almost forced the over and back there.
Shimakawa gets away from Bat, takes a pick from Ike, and goes in for the goal.
Chris Bond inbounding once again, gets the ball into Bat. He's got Erdem deep. Alexa taking himself.
Pass by Bond was a little too far in front of Erdem, unable to corral it, and that might be the break that Japan needs to narrow this 3-point gap. As we
Japan has
see
really
a little
increased their defensive intensity.
Looked like a left jab to the chin of Shimakawa.
Shimakawa and Bat dueling with one another.
Trying to spin away from Bat. Can't.
Little pass to Kishi. Japan using a 4 timeout there. That call was made because Kishi is a 0.5, doesn't have the same ability to get the ball up above his head, as well as some other players, and was crowded by Australian defenders. So Japan opting to take the safe route and call the timeout rather than risk another turnover.
Yeah, Japan had a little bit of momentum going there, so good idea to use that player timeout. As we see, Shimakawa recognizing the situation right away.
And Australia over here has moved back to their starting lineup. So Jaden Warren and Jason Lees have come on for Chris Bond and Nazim Erdem.
Ike now to Shimakawa. Takes a look at the clock. Japan back, or Australia back in the key defense. Oh, nice little corner pick.
Nice speed.
And there is Shimakawa just fighting his way in. A quick pass to Warren.
Noramatsu and Ike giving chase. Jaden Warren's a younger player. He's only 22. He played for Australia at the 2014 World Championships and the 2015 Asia Oceanica Championships. He's really starting to come into his own in this squad and looks like a bright young 3, giving Australia more options off the bench.
Big hit by Riley Bat, but he reached over top of Shimakawa, and I think that's going to be a penalty.
Yeah, that's an illegal use of hands there, Tim. So just getting his hands in on the body of Shimakawa there.
Shimakawa doing a good job of selling that one. Now, what about the cylinder in wheelchair rugby, Jason? How is that defined? As we saw that elbow maybe a little bit outside the cylinder for Shimakawa.
So the cylinder is within the hands area of Shimakawa, so between the 2 arms. And Shimakawa can initiate contact, so he is permitted to reach up with the ball and try and create that contact. But if he takes the ball beyond his cylinder, that's where it becomes legal for Bat to reach. Obviously, there was a lot of body contact there, and the referee opting to call an illegal use of hands.
So Japan with a tiny bit of momentum here, still down by 2.
Warren looking at the give and go with Lees, gets the ball back, and starts going up the wing. Shimakawa trying.
That is hit by Shimakawa, but it's too little too late. As Australia likely the last possession here for Japan. Australia with a 3-goal lead. Shimakawa tracked down by Bat. He's looking for Ike.
Pass it off to Ike.
Finds him. Ike.
She's trying to come over to set the pick.
Waiting for the
Gets
pick.
the pick
Gets
on
it.
Bat.
Back to Shimakawa. We've got
Japan with 12 seconds on the clock.
So is that a little too soon to score, Nathan?
8 seconds is more than enough time for Riley Bat to score, but in certain situations it's better just to get the goal.
Ike stops Bat, but can't stop Warren.
Warren gets
Shimakawa does. And time will run out as at halftime it is Australia 32, Japan 30. And what were the keys to the Australian lead as we were tied at the quarter, 16 all, and now 32-30. Australia obviously doing something different.
Well, their defensive pressure was very effective. They forced Japan into a lot of long and difficult passes that fell outside of their hands. For Japan, I think the key will be more patience and just more focus with the rest of their passes.
All right, and at the half, we'll look forward to Via Sport bringing you some video montages as well as a few replays as we watch the bench players staying warm.
distance gained, no walls to separate us and our home, our true home. Wilderness at civilization's edge, calling for us to be lost to the land and found again. A transformation pulled from our own depths, drawn deeper by the presence.
All right, so we're back here at the Canada Cup International Wheelchair Rugby Tournament in this game between Japan and Australia. Australia leads 32-30 heading into the second half. Both teams have stuck with a high-low lineup so far in this game. A lot of fast-paced play, a lot of long passes. It'll be interesting to see if either team opts to go with a different style of lineup in the second half, especially as this is the first game of a long tournament with all teams playing 6 games over the course of 4 days.
Well, there are no playoffs in this tournament, Nathan, so it's a strict round robin. Last tournament, last chance before Rio. And we'll take a look at the Rio matchups. As you mentioned earlier, Canada, Great Britain, Australia, Brazil in one pool, USA, Japan, Sweden, and France in the other pool. Brazil, France, the only 2 teams that are not here. And what should we expect in Rio?
Well, I think both pools in Rio should be fairly competitive. There's plenty of great rugby on hand. Obviously, the new system this year with both USA and France qualifying via qualification tournament was different, and it offered more teams a chance to play interzonally. Both teams clearly earned their way there, and it's a shame that we're not getting an opportunity to see France here this weekend. I think the Canada, GB, Australia pool should be very competitive, as all those 3 teams have had some very close games in recent years. And Japan has upset the USA before. Granted, it wasn't at the Paralympics, it was actually at the 2012 Canada Cup. But anything is really possible between these teams. We're seeing a lot more parity in wheelchair rugby nowadays, especially between the top 6 countries.
And as we wind down towards the start of the second half, we'll thank the Sheraton Hotel, the Marriott Hotel, and the Hilton Hotel. A lot of hotels required to house a tournament of this side. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 258, Soda Design, the Government of Canada, the Province of British Columbia. Both have supported the Canada Cup since its inception in 2004. And Nathan Bragg joining me here. I'm Tim Frick on Via Sport TV. Fabulous camera work from all different angles. Probably about 8 or 9 cameras here. The best wheelchair rugby filming I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, no, it is really fantastic to have great coverage like this, and especially to have a live stream available to show these games all across the world to the many wheelchair rugby fans out there. Japan is going to start this half with a more balanced lineup. They're shifting to a 3-2-5-2.5, so we're seeing number
Nakazato,
11,
the spark plug out there, number 11, joining Ikezake, along with Kishi.
And Kano, number 6. So this was actually Japan's starting lineup at the 2012 Paralympics. They're all very experienced players, and they'll give us a little bit of a different look than what we've seen so far. Australia opting to stick with their starting lineup of Riley Batt, Jaden Warren, Jason Lees, and Nazim Erdem, or Ryan Scott.
And we've got a player timeout to prevent presumably the 12-second violation. So Australia now down to 1 player timeout. Nathan, how critical is that going to be this early in the game.
Well, that's very critical because on 4 timeouts, they're often used as get-out-of-jail-free cards. They allow teams to avoid turnovers and any of those risky plays that they don't want to have to make. They can call a timeout instead. With those timeouts gone, you might see teams having to take more risk, and as a result, defenses being able to capitalize on them more often.
So Riley Bat with a Savardian-like spinorama, but Japan back the other way. The spark plug Nakazato wide open deep in the court. You have the spiked hair.
And Nakazato is known as one of the better 2-5 players in the world. He's a very agile player. He turns quite well. Very experienced. He spent a couple seasons playing in the United States. This past year, he played for the Tampa Generals.
Jason Lee's hit hard by Ikizaki. Passes off to Warren. He's got nowhere to go. Finds Riley Bat. He looks for an opening, catches Nakazato going backwards, and Bat will score.
And Warren and Lees have Nakazato tied up. And Ikizaki and back to start a foot race, but Ike slows it down.
A little 2-on-1 against Bat. Nice pick by Kano, the veteran, as you mentioned.
Kano doing a great job there, understanding that he would be better suited creating that pick rather than creating space and looking for the pass.
Here comes Riley Bat.
Japan going back to that key defense that has been fairly effective so far. Bat trying to force his way through and gets the penalty goal, forcing Kano out of bounds. Kano inbounds to Ikizaki.
So Ike.
Lees and Scott looking to tie up Nakazato. And they get him. Ikizaki using a great pick by Kishi to get around Riley Bat.
This time, though, he passes to Kano.
He's going to slow down and
lets his teammates.
So Kano slowed down there to
defense.
allow Japan the opportunity to set up a better play in transition.
Nakazato
on Bat.
Lays a hit on Bat. Bat spins away.
Bat gets around Nakazato. Ike comes over. Nice pass to
up
Jaden Warren.
Warren. And Australia maintaining their 2-point lead.
At 2 points, Japan's right in striking distance. All they'll need is a couple nice turnovers. Look for them to ramp up their defensive pressure.
Big hit by Kano to free up Ikizaki. Nakazato with a couple of picks, and Daisuke.
Japan going back to their key defense now.
Riley Bat now for Australia.
And with a more balanced lineup, it might make more sense for Japan to go into a key defense. They don't have as much speed to compete with Bat and Warren, sorry. And this way they can slow the game down, limit space.
Ikizaki tracked down by Bat, loses the ball, gets it back though.
And Japan used their second floor timeout.
So a timeout called. Lots of time on the possession clock. Not sure why they called that timeout. They had possession of the ball.
And Australia with a change here. Chris Bond, Matt Lewis, and Benjamin Fawcett enter the game. So Australia with another 3-5, 3-5.5.5.
Bond looking for Lewis.
There are very few teams that have 3-3-5s on their roster. Australia has that luxury, and it's a really great thing because it allows Bat and Bond to get breaks throughout games and keeps them fresh for the fourth quarter.
And Lewis with his first goal for Australia.
Kano to Ikizaki.
Ikizaki. He's got Nakazato wide open, and that's a pretty safe bet as Japan closes within one halfway through period number 3. And here comes
once
Lewis.
again going back to the key defense.
Australia slowing things down, looking to set up a set play, presumably. Lewis tries to ram through the middle, but instead it's a nice corner pick.
Fawcett there, preventing Cano from entering the court and giving Australia a nice advantage, but Japan is still able to get the goal.
So Nakazato getting wide open deep in the court. And now Japan with full court pressure, Nathan.
And that's one of the downsides, though, of a high-low is they don't have as many players that can cover all of Japan's options one-on-one. Fawcett with a bump pass to Matt Lewis.
And the referee calling the, or letting the advantage go to Lewis that time as Australia scores. And give us a breakdown of what the advantage rule is in refereeing, Nathan.
The advantage rule, as in what?
Well, it would have been a penalty because he hit him behind the axle, but because he had a wide open shot at scoring, the referee let it go.
Well, generally that would be called a penalty goal, so the referee didn't call a penalty goal in that situation, so there was no foul committed.
So Japan forced to call a timeout to prevent the 12-second violation. Both teams with only one floor timeout left, and we're just halfway through the third period. So there will be, as you say, no get-out-of-jail-free cards, or very few at least, for those dying moments.
So Japan's going back to their high-low with Shimakawa and Ike. Daisuke's getting a short rest here.
Bond unable to stop Shimakawa. Now Japan within one. They need some kind of a turnover, some kind of a break here if they're going to get some momentum. And that was almost it, as Shimakawa reaching in on Lewis, but Lewis able to get the ball to Bond. Bond streaks past Shimakawa. Just. Ike with the ball, back to Shimakawa. He's tracked down by Bond.
Nice
finds an opening.
Ike.
It's a gratuitous hit. And here comes Ike now, hit by Lewis. Back to Shimakawa. And some real wide open court play here.
And that was good recognition by Ike to see that that second defender was coming and being aware that Shimakawa would be open for the pass.
Bond into Lewis. Lewis has got some room around the outside.
Ike tries to recover.
Ike, I thought, had a shot at him, but Lewis just a little bit too quick.
So Ike is getting back into his position, down low, puts his hand up. That's an easy inbound for Japan.
Shimakawa
is away, but Bond recovers.
Bond hits him from behind, gets away with it.
And now Japan look to spread out Australia's defenders.
We've got a 2-on-2 going here.
Back for the pick.
With Ike and Shimakawa. A couple of nice picks by Ike.
And that was very similar to like a pick and roll that we'd see in basketball. Ike first going up to create space and then coming back to seal off the Australian defender, allowing Shimakawa to get around.
Lewis is double teamed now.
That leaves
Gets
Bond
the ball
open.
to Bond, and he's got some room against some lower point players, and he'll waste a bit of time. Australia getting set up on defense even before Bond scores. Shimakawa now, tracked down by Bond, gets away from him, and a nice pick. Shimakawa will go in alone Lewis not able to track him down. Some good speed by Shimakawa.
Yeah, and Shimakawa has, as his career has progressed, really sort of embraced the spark plug role for this Japanese side. Prior to 2010, he was the main man for this team, and now he's kind of settled into a veteran, almost what would be a sixth man role in basketball, coming off the bench, giving Japan a huge lift and providing them with great veteran leadership.
Lewis now deep in his own zone. Gets away
Lewis
from
able to get around
Ike. He's got Bond open over the top, and Bond will waste a little time to allow his teammates to get set up. And Japan using the I'll be the inbounder trick to get away from pressure by Ryan Scott. Ike now hit by Lewis. Nice pick. And that frees him up for the entire court.
And that really demonstrates the importance of those lower class players. They may not be the ones always scoring the goals or making the big pass, but they come up big by creating openings for their higher point players and getting them away from opposing defensive players. One thing you've seen the Australian low pointers do a lot of is transition onto a Japanese high pointer early and make the inbound more difficult for Japan.
This time it's Australia's turn to pass over the top as Bond sends it deep to Lewis. And Australia setting up the double team again on Ike.
And Lewis has come on really strong. Australia hasn't missed a beat since he's come onto the court, and he's done a great job of giving their main man, Riley Bat, a rest here. Japan has not been able to take advantage of the substitution at all.
So Japan using the clock here. Shimakawa had an easy goal, but elects instead to run some time off the clock. He's covered by Lewis. Pick from Ike.
Gets around Scott.
Shimakawa. He's
race with Bond to the cone. Fawcett with a great stop there.
And Shimakawa finally gets around the corner.
And with 49 seconds on the clock, look for Australia to try and score quickly so they'll get 2 chances to score before the end of the quarter.
And there goes Lewis.
So now Japan with 25 seconds.
35 seconds. No, 35. It's 35. Yeah, that clock is broken down that end. So 35 seconds. Maybe Australia could have wasted a bit of time there, as Japan will have plenty of time to narrow the gap. Here comes Shimakawa.
Now in a race with Bond.
He and Bond bumping up against each other. Japan in no rush to score here, though. 16 on the clock. Shimakawa takes a pick from Ike. Ike rolls towards the goal line. You can hear the Japanese players counting the time down. Nice move by Japan, only 2.6 seconds.
But Australia does have that over-the-top capability. And they take a shot.
Ooh, that almost worked as Lewis was in behind Ike. And at the end of 3, it is Australia with the narrowest of leads, 46-45.
So Japan has really managed to stay in this one. They were down by as many as 4 at one point in this game. They've come back to keep it within 1 heading into the fourth quarter. That balanced line gave Australia a completely different look, and was a smart coaching move by Japan to try something different there. Look for Daisuke Ikazaki to get back on the court here in the fourth quarter. He really is the main man for Japan and is a real catalyst to everything they do offensively and defensively. For Australia, it's not all been Riley Bat. They've had multiple contributors come into play.
So we are at the 2016 Canada Cup. I'm Tim Frick alongside of Nathan Bragg, the most knowledgeable wheelchair basketball fan in the entire world, I'm willing to bet. Nathan, a third-year journalism student at Carleton, originally from BC. What have we seen, or what should we expect, I should say, going into the fourth?
I think we should expect a lot of the same. Two very closely matched sides, a lot of back and forth, high-paced action. In the fourth quarter, look for both teams to slow things down a little bit more and try and get that last goal edge. Look for Japan to take a couple more chances earlier on and try and get that goal back.
Ikezaki back on for Japan, and just before their fourth period starts, we'll just remind fans that 10 o'clock Pacific tomorrow, USA takes on Australia. That'll be a huge matchup. And at noon, Sweden take on Switzerland. Sweden, of course, coached by Ben Waller-Breck, a Canadian. 2:30 USA, Japan. 5 o'clock Great Britain, Sweden. Then 7 o'clock it'll be Canada against Japan, Australia against Switzerland. All on Via Sport TV. And we are back to the live action as we see Riley Batt back into the game for Australia. Nice little dipsy doodle move around Ikezaki.
And Ike is going with the inbound. Nice pass into Ikezaki. Noramatsu with the pick on Riley Batt. But Bond recovers for him.
They got to get that ball over here with a 12-second count, and they do. Ikezaki had more trouble getting over center than he did scoring, and Erdem calls.
And Ike transitioned Nazim Erdem there to force him to call inbounder. Erdem has less range than a lot of the other Australian players, so this gives Japan the chance to potentially deny this inbound.
And so they are in that denial
Erdem
defense.
Short pass there.
Erdem faked the bump pass, and instead the shovel pass to Batt. To Bond now. Bond spinning away from Ikezaki.
Batt gains position on Ike and then goes for it. So Riley Batt did a great job there of not just shooting ahead, but making sure that he had position on Ike. He backed into him, slowed him down, and then went for the ball.
Ike inbounding. Noramatsu.
Japan getting a little bunched up here.
Ikezaki. And now it's going to be a long pass to Noramatsu. And he called the final timeout just before going out of bounds. Heads up play by Noramatsu. And Japan perhaps with an ill-advised deep pass that time.
That's
Japan
definitely something
ball.
they'll be looking to clean up over the course of this tournament. This is obviously their first game. So there may be just a couple kinks that they'll have to work out before the rest of this weekend. Obviously, Team Australia is a very difficult team to start off with as the defending Paralympic and World Champions.
And that ball knocked away by Batt. And Bond will pick it up.
So much on boxing on Riley Batt that he forgets to go after the ball, and Chris Bond there to pick it up.
So a big turnover in favor of Australia and Japan.
And that really demonstrates that the dominance of Riley Batt is that everything the opposing team does offensively and defensively is done with him in consideration of where is Riley Batt.
And this time Riley Batt was nowhere to be seen as Ikezaki uses a pick from Ike to narrow that gap to 2.
Ikezaki is a very experienced player. He's played in the U.S. for a couple of seasons. He actually played at the 2015 Canadian National Championships with Team BC, winning a gold medal. And has played at a couple Australian National Championships as well.
Riley Batt down the right side. Hit by Ike, but the hit has no effect. And we're seeing the result of a nice little rest as Riley Batt seems to have renewed energy.
Australia doing a great job defending Ikezaki here, but they leave Norimatsu open deep. He's made them pay several times throughout this game, doing a great job not only picking but also creating space and scoring those goals.
And Norimatsu with good hands there to track that ball down and score. And again, we see the strategy of forcing Erdem to inbound the ball. Bond gets free.
Erdem to Bond. Norimatsu defending with Ikezaki. Bond goes sideline and gets around Ike.
And Bond will score easily for Team Australia.
And Ike went foot plate to foot plate there instead of trying to go for the better angle where he could have sealed Bond off. That's an example of sometimes trying to go for the hit instead of getting that better position.
Right, if you go toe plate to toe plate, you're kind of going in the wrong direction. And Ike now directing his team to get set up for defense. All the while scoring.
Bond inbounding, looking for bat.
Bond.
Give and go with Fawcett. And he gets around Ikezaki.
So there is no traveling rule as there is in basketball. It's simply the 10 seconds and you must bounce the ball, correct?
Yeah, no traveling rule.
You can push as many times as you want within that 10 seconds while in possession of the ball. And here comes Ikezaki now for Japan. He's looking for an opening in the middle and finds it.
Bond inbounding now, looking for bat. Finds him. And he's away. Norimatsu giving chase. Ike comes in to support.
So Ike doing a better job
there.
that time, chair position.
Bond with
Nice
a fantastic
pick
catch.
From Fawcett, as Bond is the recipient of a lovely pass from Riley Bat.
Ike being very patient with the ball, looking for an opening. Norimatsu streaking down deep. And he finds Ike.
Norimatsu comes across and Bond just hits him out of frustration by the looks of it, because he knew he was going to be picked out of any opportunity to stop Ike. And here comes Riley Bat. He's got Norimatsu hitting him.
Norimatsu tried to get that pick in there, but just couldn't get in front.
And Bat will waste a bit of time as his team sets up defensively. It looks like Australia is going to pull back into a half-court style of defense.
Half-court style defense. With a 3-goal lead, they might want to try and slow this game down and limit the time that Japan has to get back into the game.
Although Riley Bat, the one-man wrecking crew out there, making it tough for Ikezaki, but he bounces off an Erdem hit. Japan now taking their time up against the half-court defense.
To make a substitution here with their 2 Class 1s likely to sub in for Kishi and Norimatsu.
So Ike around the corner.
Chris Bond inbounding. Japan doing a great job keeping Riley Bat up high.
Forced to pass to Erdem. Erdem is hit,
pressure on the give and go, but Bond's able to get
picks it up.
Finds Bat.
Bat on Australia.
They've got them pinned here.
Time is running down here. Bat will not make it.
As Australia uses their final floor timeout. That was great defensive pressure by Japan there. Really putting pressure on Riley Bat up high, and then as soon as the ball was in, attacking that low pointer.
Well, Australia nearly turned it over, forced to use their final floor timeout. So neither team, Nathan, has a floor timeout. We still got 3:48 to go in the game. 2-point lead for Australia. What's Japan's strategy here?
Well, Tim, they've just got to remember that 3:48 is plenty of time. They have time. They don't need to rush. Focus on not making any mistakes and keep that defensive pressure up. They're down 2. They're the ones that are going to have to force Australia to make mistakes.
And Australia set to inbounds. Interesting 27 seconds on the possession clock, which would have indicated a...
Bond into Bat.
12-second
Both
violation.
Japanese high pointers covering Riley Bat as Japan went for the steel door. Ball's up.
Well, Riley Bat with a sideline pass to Bond.
And Ike just not able to get there for the defensive stop.
Good defense by Japan, though, Nathan.
Yeah, that was fantastic defense by Japan. It was a great job there by Tomo Imai to get that steel door on Chris Bond early, and good recognition by Ike to leave at the right time. Unfortunately, though, just not able to get in front.
Ikazaki just gets over center in
and now they've got a 2-on-1 against Riley
11.9
Bat.
seconds. And Bat
Penalty goal awarded on the illegal use of hands.
forcing that penalty goal that time.
You know, and Bat's been effective using his hands in this game defensively. He's knocked the ball loose a couple times already, and it's something that he'll likely look to continue.
So big hit on Bond, but he gets the ball to Bat. And that is a deadly combination, the killer bees, we'll call them. Bond and
Imai's
Bat.
pass picked off by Riley Bat.
So Ikazaki looks like he's going to get a penalty here.
There's an illegal. Oh. There's an illegal use of hands call there on Daisuke Ikazaki.
Ikazaki having to gamble, I guess, Nathan, in order to get the ball back.
Yeah, in that situation, they had just turned the ball over. He was trying to get it back. It's one of those things where there is a chance that he could have knocked it loose. Unfortunately, though, just having too much contact with Riley Bat in that situation. And good recognition by Riley Bat there to put that pressure on and get that turnover.
So Australia looking like they're going to use the entire possession clock here.
Yeah, well, Australia's
Late in the
trying to slow
game.
it down, not only because they have time, but also so they can set up a trap on Daisuke Ikazaki. You can't see it on the screen, but both Australian low pointers have gone over in front of the penalty box and have set up in front of Daisuke. This has been done to force Daisuke to call inbounder. Nazim Erdem now leaving that trap and allowing Ben Fawcett to take it. And Japan calling a bench timeout.
So with 2 minutes and 19 seconds to go, Australia with what looks to be an insurmountable lead. What do you do if you're Japan now to try to narrow that gap?
Well, with Japan, it's really going to come down to defensive pressure. With 2:19 left, they need to create turnovers. And they're not going to create turnovers by going back in the key. They're going to have to press Australia very hard and might have to gamble on reaching a little bit to try and pop that ball loose. That was also a smart bench timeout by the Japanese coaching staff there because it prevents Australia from setting up that sideline trap on Ikazaki, allows them to be free on their first inbound after that score. And
so we will take a moment to thank Via Sport, of course, Via Sport TV. Via Sport is increasing awareness, opportunity, and participation in sport across the province of British Columbia. We'll thank Vesco, who create custom wheelchairs, parts, and accessories, and also Postmark
Australia
Brewing.
with a good double team here on Ike. They've got both their low pointers on him and have him trapped and out of the play. That forces Ikazaki to beat both Bat and Bond, but he's successful and goes in for the score. Great burst of speed there by Ikazaki, and a good job by the Japanese low pointers to help him create an opening.
Australia getting the ball in quickly.
Ike pressuring Bat. And that's a combo we've seen time and time again this evening. Bat to Bond for another score.
Inbound to Ikazaki now. He needs to score quickly. He's got Ike all alone.
Gets past Bond.
For some reason, doesn't pass it to him. Goes
I think
in
that
by
could have been because
himself.
Riley Bat was within that area and he can recover on passes a lot quicker. In wheelchair rugby, because all athletes have some form of impairment in their upper limbs, sometimes it's a smarter decision to just take the ball yourself than force a pass that could be picked off.
Ike there reaching in on Bat. Bat gets away, and now we'll waste a bit of time. Ike will try to force him to score. But I'm afraid Japan is running out of time, Nathan.
Yeah. And Tomo Imai calling inbounder there. So he was trapped, allowing Japan to set up the play that they want. But Australia with great transition early to set up their double teams on both Japanese high pointers.
Ikizaki looking to get away from Bat.
And there's the long pass to Imai.
Got Imai all alone. Notice that Imai went kind of wide that time and then cut in on the ball.
Ike with some good transition on Erdem, forcing him to call inbounder. And Japan throwing a triple team at Riley Bat with both low pointers and Ike going after the Australia's main man.
Ikizaki.
Japan really trying to deny this inbound. Erdem with a nice bump to Bond.
Japan trying to stop Bond, but he's got too much speed. As that combination of Bat and Bond picking.
Quick
This
inbound
time
for Japan.
Bat picking for Bond. And here comes
And Ikezaki's free.
Ikizaki. This time he'll waste no time in scoring as Japan needs.
As Japan looks to transition quickly, Chris Bond calling inbounder. And again, 3 Japanese defenders going after Riley Bat early. Australia with the give and go. Ike taking on Bat. That was just too much speed for Ike there.
Bond with a number of good hits there just for good measure.
Ike with a quick inbound to Ikizaki.
Ike returns the favor. Another long pass to Imai. And he'll cross the line quickly. Japan within 31 seconds.
31
in the game.
seconds here. Look for Japan to try and go for last goal. Or Australia, sorry.
Long pass tracked down by Riley Bat. Incredible burst of speed, Nathan.
And that was a wrong prediction right there as Australia deciding to go with a quick long ball. And there is a holding call against Japan. So as Ike fell, he made contact with an Australian player. That is against the rules and will result in a turnover. So taking away what looked like a very clear Japanese goal as Ikizaki was open on a breakaway.
So and that's one of the gamble a little bit, I guess, towards the end of the game.
And that's one of the risks of sitting up as high as Ike does. He's got a very high center of gravity and might be a bit more tippy than some other players. Australia with the ball now.
Bad hit by Ikizaki, but gets away. Erdem there with a nice pick. That will waste some time as Australia don't really need to score at this point.
Bad killing time.
And the Japanese player going out of bounds on purpose by the looks of it to force the goal. One last hit by Riley Bat on Ikizaki, and that'll do it. 63-58. Australia, the 4th ranked team in the world this year, but the defending Paralympic and world champions, led by that man, Riley Bat, score the victory in this opening match for both teams. Nathan, what's the summary for the Japan-Australia matchup?
Well, it really came down to just those small mistakes, those passes that were just a little bit too far out of reach, or those situations where Japan might have called a timeout. For them, though, they only lost by 5, so there are a lot of positives to take from this game. Australia are the defending Paralympic and world champions. For Australia, it's a great way to start the tournament. They get to start off with a little bit of momentum, especially with the United States coming tomorrow morning. That's a really big game for them.
As we take a look at a couple of the highlights, there's the Killer Bees, Bond and Bat for Australia. against the Ikes, Ike Zake and Daisuke Ike Zake and number 21 Ike, the big man.
And this was a very hard-hitting game. There was a
All right, so that'll do it. Australia, first victory of the tournament, 63-58 over Japan for Via Sport TV and at the Canada Cup of Wheelchair Rugby. I'm Tim Frick alongside Nathan Bragg, and we'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific.